Good morning, everybody. This is Paul Romero with the Swiss Gold Global. No, I'm sorry, the Sell a House Wholesale Real Estate Investing number 171. No, I'm sorry, 100. That phone call just threw me off there. I think that's my gardener kid. I have to call him back as soon as we get done here. So anyway, starting over here. This is Paul Romero. Welcome, Noodlers and everybody, to the Sell a House Wholesale Real Estate Investing number 151. Let's get this right today. On August 12th, 2015. This is, hey, it's 2 days before my birthday. Look at that. Anyway, you just want to say that I don't have any content for you today. So I'm going to talk about why I'm not sitting in my condo in Phoenix, Arizona, and why I'm in this beautiful setting out here. Just take a look at this nice little backdrop that I have here, which is my backyard in my hometown of Lake Tahoe, California. And I just want to point out that I'm able to be here because of wholesale real estate. That's why I'm able to be here. It's also why I'm able to be in Phoenix. Why am I not doing wholesale real estate here in Lake Tahoe? Well, because there's just not as great of an opportunity to do it here as there is in Phoenix. I did a lot of research when the time came for me to do this, and I put that on vibrate so it stops bugging me. I did a lot of research when I was figuring out where to go do this at, and just I'm going to give you a little bit of backdrop on that, which you guys may or may not have heard before. But the crash left me devastated with a huge amount of debt and this house right here, going into foreclosure, which I did like many people and buried my head in the sand for a while, and then pulled my head out of my rear end and said, looked in the mirror one day and said, hey, look, if anything's going to change, you're going to have to make it change. So I started looking for something to do that with. And I had been involved with a lot of things prior to the crash for about, maybe 4 years. About 2002, I started looking for something that I could start doing on the side of my work in the construction business, doing asphalt paving. And I made an attempt. I tried, which was right there. My problem was the trying part. I didn't do anything. I didn't apply myself to anything. I never followed through with anything. I never committed to anything, which is why I failed at everything. And I tried a number of things between 2002 and 2007, one of which I actually had some success with and was actually committing myself to and actually doing, which was real estate involved with the cash flow notes. I don't know if you guys ever saw the Russ Dalby Cash for Cash Flows. Definitely was real. And it was just something that I, as a person, wasn't ready for. Although it did help me grow quite a bit, because it thrust me into, I paid a lot of money for some training to help thrust me into that, but it helped thrust me into becoming the person that I needed to become to get into this business. So anyway, with the crash though, the avenue of that arena I was pursuing was pretty much wiped out, and probably, I don't know, maybe it'll come back, but maybe it's coming back a little bit. I doubt it. But anyway, I was fortunate enough at the time that after the crash, that I still had my job. I was still on salary year round, and I still had a lot of free time in the wintertime. And that was kind of when I said, okay, it's time to figure something out here. And the first thing that I had to figure out was how to save my home from foreclosure. And that thrust me into doing a lot of studying and research for about 5 months before I actually made a move, pulled the trigger on the right thing to do to save my house, which I was successful at because of a real estate guru product that I found online that was called the Loan Renovator, created by a guy named Lee Arnold. And I can certainly say that without that product, I probably would not have gotten the loan modification that kept my house out of foreclosure. And so with that product came the ability to resell that product to other people and make money. So I started off in that and started advertising and working to try and put the word out that I could help people, get loan modification. But there was, a lot of warnings about scams and everything about that. And people were very leery about it, and it was not an easy thing to do. And for a person who wasn't the right person really to be able to do that kind of a thing, made it even more difficult to do. So I had no success. I stayed at it, but I never did sell one of the products. I spoke with a handful of people from my advertising that were interested, and part of my not being the right kind of person and having the right knowledge, I gave away all the information in the presentation opposed to selling the product. And this the reason why I helped some people save their homes, but I didn't sell any of the product. During that time, I found another guru product by a guy named Justin Lee called SaveMeFromForeclosure.com, which was all about doing short sales and also helping people, by advertising to people, the options that you have to avoid foreclosure, which I just spent 5 months studying and researching all of those options, and not only learning what the options were, but how to go about working your way through each one of those options, and even more so in depth than that, how to actually do it the right way to be successful, to have a successful outcome with each one of those options. So I had a lot of knowledge in this area, and it's like, this fits perfectly with what I'm doing, and it gives me the opportunity to potentially buy houses on a short sale. So I switched over my marketing and continued doing what I was doing, only on a more in-depth level with SaveMeFromForeclosure.com now, which, a funny story, there is still to this day, this was in 2000 and early 2009, or mid 2009, that I got into this, and I put out some bandit signs around town here in Lake Tahoe, and there's still a sign hanging on a telephone pole at the Y. It's funny as heck that there's still a SaveMeFromForeclosure.com sign up from 2009. 6 years that thing's been hanging on that telephone pole, and it's still there. So haven't got any calls from it though, which is why I'm doing wholesale real estate in Phoenix, Arizona, and not here. So anyway, with that program, again, I spoke with a handful of people, and I know that I helped a handful of people to, one way or another, make the right decision into how they should go about avoiding foreclosure. But again, I wasn't getting any short sale deals now, and I wasn't selling any loan renovators. I did get a deal, went through the whole process to create the short sale package and everything. It came right down to the wire of having these folks, sign the final paperwork, so that I could actually, submit the package to the bank and, work on purchasing that property on a short sale. And at the ex-husband backed out, all worried that, it was going to affect his credit and his job and a whole bunch of things like that. So I never got that deal. Shortly thereafter, well, not shortly thereafter, but maybe about 5 or 6 months after that, still going at it, still spending every last penny that I really didn't have to spend on marketing and trying to get the word out. I did get a deal from the kid's parents, the kid that works with me on the asphalt company. His parents needed to do a short sale, and so I got that deal. Without question, they signed, no problem, yeah, let's do this. And I went through the whole process, created the package, sent it to my negotiator, who got it into the bank. And 9 months later, the bank is finally ready to deal on this short sale. Yeah, so that was a lot of work that I did 9 months ago, and finally it's coming to play. And 9 months more of spending money on marketing and still not getting any other deals. Made a couple of other offers. Had another person that was close. I thought I was going to get that deal, but it didn't come through. And so what happened was I was thrust into the middle of paving season again, right in the height of the busiest part of paving season. I'm busting my tail day in and day out, and I just, didn't have the focus that I needed on this short sale deal, and I missed the deadline to put in a counter offer to the bank's original counter offer to my original offer. And I had given them a super low ball offer. They came back with an offer of 230, and I was going to hit them up for 217 and try to get them somewhere around the 220 mark. Well, when the property foreclosed, the very next day, the bank, or when I missed the deadline to put in my counter offer, the very next day the bank foreclosed on that house, and that opportunity was gone. So I happened to know the realtor who got the property, the foreclosure, and I just checked in with them, and all he did was go in there and have a trash out crew go in and clean the place out and stick a sign in the yard, and in like 8 days the property sold for $260,000. So would I have made some money? Heck yeah. How much money would I have made? Probably no less than 20 grand, probably as much as possibly 30 grand. Who knows? But a lesson, an expensive lesson, hard learned. But that's when I started going, okay, well, this whole short sale thing ain't working for me. Maybe what I need to do is kind of look at this in a more of the traditional way and try to look at, doing a fix and flip someplace. And I can't do it here because it's far too expensive, and I don't have enough money to do it in this area. So I need to find another market that I can go to. And that's when I started doing the research around the country. And I did a lot of the research through another guru product that I found, and I forget the name of this one, but it was very interesting. I'd like to find it again because I might actually want to get back on board with that. I might even still have my membership. I don't know, but it was a buying signal kind of a market analysis program, and it was very interesting. There was a lot of interesting graphs and studies and history of all the markets across the nation, all the major markets across the nation. So I had really good information with which to make my decision from. And of course, I had to do this in the winter time because I was paving in the summer, had to be at work here, and I only had the winter time to do this. So I was like, okay, I drew a line right across the middle of the nation on Highway 50, and I said nothing to the north, only to the south, which this is Highway 50 where I live. So I was going south of here somewhere. And so I started studying all the markets from Florida to California, and obviously California went out right of the way because it was too expensive. And then Nevada, well, Vegas, Nevada really is, this area and Vegas. There's really nothing else in Nevada. So Vegas was on the radar. Phoenix was on the radar. I was looking at the major cities. So New Mexico, Albuquerque, was quickly removed off the radar. Going west, Texas, there was obviously a couple of locations there. We got San Antonio, Houston, pretty much Dallas. There was a lot of area potential in Texas. There was then there's then there's Louisiana. So we had New Orleans, we had Mississippi, kind of went off the radar very quickly. No, Arkansas, I missed Arkansas. Arkansas left the radar very quickly. Mississippi left the radar very quickly. And Georgia, we had Atlanta, and then I got into Florida. And then obviously in Florida, I had a number of cities as well too. Tampa, Miami, Orlando. I looked at a number of others. Fort Lauderdale area, Palm Beach, Bay City, a lot of different cities that I looked at in Florida, actually, all with good potential actually in Florida. And so the next thing I looked at was, okay, Vegas was a flat market for 100 years prior to the boom, and then wham, prices went up, and then wham, prices crashed. And I'm like, okay, well, it's a flat market for 100 years. What says that's going to change? I think Vegas is probably the weakest one on the list. And then I looked at a number of cities in Florida, and I narrowed it down really to Tampa Bay, Florida. In Florida is where I was the final decision there. And then the cities in Texas, because of their laws, didn't get hit quite so hard with the foreclosures. So just because of that kind of left. And then New Orleans with the the whole Katrina thing and everything that was going on with that, that just really wasn't all that didn't seem like it had the potential that the cities of Atlanta, Georgia, Tampa Bay, Florida, and Phoenix, Arizona had. So out of those three, I eliminated Atlanta, Georgia, just because thinking of me coming from California, who I was, walking into, the good old boy network of Atlanta, Georgia, is that really going to fly so well? So I eliminated Georgia, even though it was a very hot market. I eliminated Georgia, so I was down to Tampa Bay, Florida, and Phoenix, Arizona. And my final decision came to the fact that I could get on a plane with pretty much nothing but a pocket full of cash that I had collected over the course of the summer of paving, and not paying my mortgage again, throwing my house back into the throes of foreclosure, to come up with just shy of about 20 grand to go off and do this. And I could get out to Florida, like I said, again, with nothing, and have to figure it out from there. Or Phoenix, I could load up all my tools in my truck and I could drive to Phoenix and find a fix and flip and go to work. So bingo, there you go. That's how I got to Phoenix, Arizona. Kind of glad I took that decision, because it's definitely made it easier for me to commute back and forth a little bit since. And the funny thing was, when I got to Phoenix now, I'd done a lot of research, looking at a lot of properties online, seeing a lot of very cheap properties I could buy for the cash that I had, possibly even buy and fix for the cash that I had. And when I got there, not knowing the area, seeing all the properties that I was looking at and where they were, there wasn't a market for those at the time. I could have bought them, I could have fixed them, and I would have been stuck sitting on them for who knows how long. And so that wasn't something that I wanted to do. I needed to, get something that I could fix and flip quickly. Now, with the money that I had the money that I could do it with some hard money or something like that, but I had no clue how to do that. Hard money, that was a whole nother thing for me. Borrowing money is something that was totally against my personal, entire life. I never borrowed money from anybody except for my mother on 2 occasions, which I paid her back like almost immediately. And so borrowing money was like a big taboo for me. That wasn't something that was supposed to be part of the plan. So during the time when I was there, kind of spinning my wheels, wondering what the heck I'm going to do, I was driving around neighborhoods and just, I was writing down a whole list of vacant properties. I had a notebook full of these, and I came home one afternoon and saw on an email, I got an invite to another guru webinar, and this one was all about wholesaling. And I saw this thing on wholesaling, which, sort of fell in line with the short sale thing, but I didn't really put the 2 and 2 together, because, short sale was obviously going through the bank and whatnot. This was dealing with individuals, not going through the bank, and being able to put a property under contract and immediately, not waiting 9 months for the bank to get ready, but immediately being able to turn around and sell that contract to an end buyer, an investor buyer, and make a spread on the profit. And I'm like, bingo, the lights went on, packed the truck, baby, I'm coming home. And that's what I did. I was here in November. I was in Phoenix in November, and I was home in December. I stayed through Christmas and New Year's and went back down in January, and that's when I started wholesaling real estate in January of 2011 or 12. No, January of 2012. And, we're at the bottom of the market. No, it was January 2011, my mistake. I'm sorry. Yeah, January of 2011. And we're at the bottom of the market there in Phoenix, and everybody's like, what are you thinking about buying houses? It's, but I knew that there was something here, and I went back down there to do it. And for the first few months, I found nothing. I was doing all the things that, the wholesale program said to do, and it wasn't getting me anywhere. I wasn't getting any calls. I wasn't getting any sellers. And I put out the bandit signs, like they said, and I was getting a lot of calls, but they were all in mostly other wholesalers, asking me, oh, so you're a cash buyer, what do you buy? Well, that's one cool thing that came out of all that is one of the wholesalers that called me was my current business partner, John, and his question was, hey, you're a cash buyer, what do you buy? And so we got to talking, and he actually had something going on at the time which had an element of the cash for cash flows business that I had started, back in 2004, that fell apart on me. So I had knowledge in that area, and he had this deal going on that was kind of wrapped around something similar to that, an element of that. So I was able to bring him information about that. And the more that, we started talking about that, we started talking about other things of what we were doing and this and that. And he had some things going on, and I had some things going on, and we shared some information back and forth. And that's sort of how the partnership started up. So we worked on that for a couple of months, and then I saw another. Well, I didn't see another, but I recalled seeing this thing about probates, and I saw another guru webinar, and the guy was just, all he was selling was a book for 27 bucks. And I called up John and I said, "Hey man, you got $13.50 you want to share with me? You want to split the cost of this book with me on doing probate?" So he's like, "Okay, yeah, I can squeeze $13.50 out," because that's where we were at the time. I was squeezing $13.50 out, and as crazy as that sounds, but as true as it is. Anyway, so we bought the $27 book. It came, I read it, I said, "Boom, this is what we're doing, dude." And I said, "Here, read the book," and we started doing the probates, and we continued with that for 2.5 months until mid-May, when I had to leave Phoenix and come back here to Tahoe to go back to paving, because if I didn't, I wasn't making any money at the time, and I had mortgage payments coming up that was keeping me just, on the edge of going into foreclosure again and losing this house. So I had to come back to work in order to make money enough to make the payments on the house again. And of course, John is in construction as well too. He's the third owner of a painting company, and summer was their busy season, and he had to go back to work as well too for the summer. But we devised a plan for John to be able to maintain what we had going on, which fell apart rather quickly because he just got too busy. But lo and behold, from May, June, and mid-July, about mid-July, about 2 months later, we get a phone call from the probate letters that we had sent out in April and May, and we land a deal. And sure enough, we land this deal, and we get that this deal pretty much, this was pretty much clockwork wholesaling. The guy called up, he wanted to sell the house. We made him the offer. He accepted the offer. We got the contract. We put a sign in the yard for sale because the guy was out of state. We put a sign in the yard for sale. We got people calling on the sign, and we got a buyer on it rather quickly, and we sold it rather quickly. And during the process of that, about a week into that process, we got another call from another seller, and we got another deal. But we had to work on this deal. And by the time we got the first deal closed, which did take every bit of 30 days to close the first deal, but we made $16,000 on it. But during that process, as I said, we got the second deal, and just as the first deal is closing and we're making 16 grand, the guy from the second deal is ready to send over the signed contract. So we just got 16,000 off the first deal. He sends over the signed contract. He's an attorney back east. They do things a little bit differently back east. I think he was in Boston, if I remember correctly. And so they do things quite differently back there. They close through attorneys. They don't close through title companies and things like that. And his knowledge of all of this said that he required a 5% earnest money deposit. Well, we made an offer on this house of $270,000, which means we needed to come up with a $13,500 earnest money deposit. We just made 16 grand, and we got to put up 13.5 on an earnest money deposit on the next property, which we don't even know if we can sell because it was kind of out there. It wasn't in the city. It was up in Carefree, and we're like, I don't even know if we can sell this property. Are we offering too? Are we paying too much? All those things, and so we bit the bullet. We took the chance, and we jumped in the pool with both feet, and we put up the 13.5 as the earnest money deposit. And sure enough, the day that we put up the earnest money deposit, the contract was being faxed over to us. We started getting on the phones and making some phone calls, and we got a buyer to buy that property from us for, 285. We had it for 270, and we got a buyer to buy it for 270 or 285. So another $15,000, $16,000 profit actually is what it was. But so we had $32,000 coming off this closing, and the very day that we got the first buyer at 285, I mean, not an hour later, another one's calling us up and saying, we'll give you 290. And the next day I got another one calling us up going, I'll give you 300. And we obviously could have sold the property for a lot more, got it done quickly, but it was a freak out situation that we had no clue out, being at our very first two deals, and I wasn't even there to deal with them. John had to do it all, pretty much. And so, yeah, very scary, but very rewarding. We got our first two deals closed in August and made $32,000, and that's how we got started. Thought we were the kings of the world, and that we were going to crush it once we got back to, getting there and being able to do this again in November. And we thought we were smart guys too, and thinking about mid-September, saying, hey, look, we did work for, middle of March, April, and May, 2 months worth of work back then, that we got deals in July and closed in August. Well, if we go back to doing this in November, maybe it's not going to be until February before we're actually closing a deal, or even getting a deal, and not closing till March. And we don't want to wait that long. So we thought, hey, let's hire somebody who can come in and do what we were doing. John could take a little bit of time to train this person how to do what we were doing, to start putting out some marketing, so that when we get back, we could be in position to start crushing it right away. And so that's what we did. Only we hired somebody under a very expensive, temporary employment service. And for September, mid-September, October, and half of and the end of October, so for just a month and a half, that was chewing through the cash like crazy. Not to mention the cost of the marketing that we were putting out, and we were putting out a lot of it. And so when we come back there in November, we're ready for this, we're ready the phones to start ringing, and they're just not ringing. And the money's running out, and we're going into December, and the money's really running out, and phones still aren't ringing. And we're like, what's going on here? And finally, as the money's just about to run out, we, lo and behold, land a small deal. Very interesting story behind this deal as well, too. But, we land a small deal. I think we made about $6,000 off. No, I think we made about $6,000 off this deal. It wasn't very big. We got a small payday off of it, enough to allow me to come home for Christmas and have a little bit of a Christmas, and to keep money infused into the business to keep doing what we're doing. And but the property that we bought it. We sold it to an investor in San Diego, who wanted to keep it as a buy and hold. We got this property under contract for 29. We sold it for 35, and she first of all thought she might want to just resell it. And we put a for sale sign in the yard of this one, which we didn't do. And the very first day we put the sign in the yard, we got an offer to purchase it for $45,000. So had we put the sign in the yard ourselves, we could have sold actually, I think we got the deal for 26 and sold it for 33 is what it was. But anyway, or 27 and sold it for 32, whatever the deal was. But if we would have put the sign out ourselves, like idiots, we didn't do, and we got the $45,000 cash offer, we could have made what, 15? Yeah, we could have made another $17,000-$18,000 off of that deal, but instead we made like 6 or 5. I forget what it was. It wasn't that much. But anyway, this investor, she ultimately decided that she wanted to keep the property. And right now, actually, it's a funny story, because right now, John's actually living in that house, paying her rent. So that's, I guess that was an inevitable setup by the universe, with a future plan for us to sell it that way, so that would be available when the time came. But that's kind of route that I took to get to wholesale real estate. And I like to tell that story because it just goes to show that, and I mean, and I can go a little bit farther with this, and just real quickly, the rest of 2012, two things happened. Number one, we ran out of money, got a deal. Ran out of money, got a deal. Ran out of money, got a deal. That's how 2012 went. Just enough to keep us going. We weren't making any money really, but we were just keeping us going, giving us a little bit of payday and keeping the business going in what we were doing. The second thing that happened was, oh no, that didn't happen yet. At the end of 2012, we met some people. We got involved with some other wholesalers and whatnot. And at the end of 2012, we got invited to a Christmas party through another wholesale group. And we went to this Christmas party, and we met a man named Jeff Fagan, who turned out to be a mentor of ours. It still is, and not necessarily in wholesale real estate, but in sales and marketing and business and just all of the things where we were lacking big time in who we were as people to really be successful. 2013 came around, and we had a little bit of a rough start, but once we started going on that, and we found we added an additional element to the program in 2013 where we were buying HUD properties, and we did about a half a dozen of those in the second half of 2013, which means we did about a dozen deals in 2013, which was enough to really kind of keep us going. We lost our gal too, and here's the interesting thing: we lost our gal that we were overpaying, and had to bring in somebody else. It was actually John's wife at the time, his ex-wife now, which is why he's living in that investor's house. But we brought her in, and she started seeing a whole bunch of things that was wrong, that this gal was doing wrong, that was causing a lot of the problems why we weren't getting a lot of deals. So that thrust us back into, going back and fixing our program, our system, so to speak. And when we fixed the system, obviously that started bringing more results too. So the second half of 2013 is where we really got all 12 of those deals. 2014 started, and we went into a slump again. It actually took us 5 months before we got a deal in 2014. That was hurtful, big time hurtful. But we had been making some money before. We were a little bit of ahead. And, we brought in another girl to start working with us, doing that stuff. And of course, we refined our program even more when she left us. And that's what's taken us to where we are now, with a really refined program over there and a really refined program now. This year started out a little bit rough too. First 2 months we didn't get a deal, but then we've just been crushing it ever since. And that's just how the progression of wholesale real estate went for us, being people who didn't know anything about this business. And I just like to tell that story again. I'll go back to what I was saying there, because it's a real life example of what it really takes for most people to become successful in this business. Now, sure, there's the far and few in between, the rare, the ones that you see on all the testimonials by the gurus who, sent out 100 letters and got a $50,000 deal and, accelerated and skyrocketed into, making $100,000 a year in their first year. It does happen. But two elements of that fall in. There's two key elements to that being, part of how you might make that happen. And number one is just dumb luck that you get that first deal on mailing out 100 letters or less. And so that's one element of it. And the second element of it is that we talk about here a lot is you. It really comes down to, those people that have that kind of success. If you look at their backgrounds, they probably come from some sort of sales background in some respect, and or they could just be that type of person who has no problem going out and talking with people and doing all that sort of stuff. So two things that you may not be, two things that I was not myself. So if you aren't those two things right there, you can look more towards my story as being your path to success than the overnight, kind of success systems that you see, on all the testimonials. And with that, that is why we've created the program that we have with Property Noodlers, because it allows people like me back then, like you now, to come in here and get started on this business without having to be that person that that has all those qualities, and be able to jump right in and get right to really thrust into that end of it, where you can sort of put yourself through a crash course of becoming that person and making some money at the same time, opposed to having to do that and struggle through and figure out everything else, because we've already got everything else figured out. So all of that system's in place for you to make you successful right away and get you making some money. Granted, it may not be big money, but at least you're making some money at it. Might even be enough to replace your job right out of the gate, but I wouldn't do that right away. I would wait until it turns into something that is, solidly successful, that you filled a funnel, that you have deals, in the pipeline, are closing, you can kind of count your paydays in the future and that sort of thing. So that's what we've built here. That's the story. That's the route. My story is the route that I'm trying to help people avoid having to take in order to break into this business. And if they want to do that, I forgot to do this. I can't believe it, but I don't know why. I thought it was supposed to do it automatically. But if they want to do that, this is all you got to do is go right here to the PropertyNoodlers@gmail.com and send an email, and we'll get back with you and we'll start chatting. And if that's you, Jose, who's watching right now, I do apologize. Yesterday I just completely forgot, and the day before I was totally tied up, that I said I was going to call on the Monday Hangout, that you were going to get a call from us, but you are going to get a call from us today, Jose, so be waiting for it. All right, so with that in mind, everybody, I'm a few minutes over here, but I wanted to get that story out and let everybody understand what it is that we're trying to do with the Property Noodlers program and who this is the most beneficial for. And that's the people like me who had to struggle for 4 years to be able to get to having some kind of success in this business. And if you look back, 2011 and 2012, that's when the real, I mean, prior to that, is when the struggle was happening, when even the wholesalers weren't making a lot of money because the buyers weren't there. That's when the buyers were coming into the game. There was a wholesale deal on every corner, and look at how difficult it was for us to be able to land deals and make money. You know what I mean? It's crazy. So with that in mind, everybody, we just like to help you fast track your efforts into success with the Property Noodlers program. So send us an email and we will get to you within a few days anyway. All right. Oh, universe, I ask not for more riches, but for more wisdom, with which to make better use of the riches given to me at birth, consisting of the power to control and direct my own mind to whatever end I might desire. Everybody make it a great day. We'll see you back here on Freedom Friday. That's going to be my birthday, so I'll be wearing a party hat. And